Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Imagine the scenario for a second. You are just days away from facing your greatest historical rival in this massive four-test series.
Oh, the pressure is it's already suffocating at that point.
Right. And then, your iconic World Cup winning captain goes down with an injury. For most international squads, that is a full-blown crisis. Panic sets in.
Oh, absolutely. Formations are completely scrambled.
Yeah, but today we're looking at why the Springboks might actually be stepping onto the pitch, like more tactically versatile and maybe even more dangerous because of it. But before we get into the granular details of Rassie Erasmus's latest strategic pivot, make sure you subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description.
Definitely do that, because you want to be plugged into this level of tactical analysis as the series unfolds.
Exactly. So we're pulling our context today from a really thorough piece in the South African detailing this sudden leadership shakeup. And I think the mission here is to show this isn't a story of scrambling for survival, is it?
No, not at all. It's actually a masterclass in utilizing profound squad depth. It's arguably the most fascinating coaching challenge Erasmus has faced in this current cycle.
So let's get right into the catalyst of this whole reshuffle. Siya Kolisi suffers a hamstring strain in the first half against Argentina in Buenos Aires. And the context here is crucial because...
Yeah, it wasn't just out of the blue.
Right. He was just making his return from a previous hamstring issue that, kept him sidelined for the July tests.
I was trying to map this onto an analogy for our listeners, thinking about the mechanics of it.
Okay, I like a good analogy. Lay it on me.
A hamstring injury for a loose forward is essentially like driving a high-performance rally car with a frayed clutch cable. It might hold while you're idling, but the second you try to redline it out of a corner, the entire transmission is at risk.
That actually holds up structurally. A lot of casual observers think of the hamstring purely in terms of, straight line sprinting speed.
Which it is, partly. But for a flanker in the Springbok system, that muscle group is the primary generator of torque. When Kolisi is contesting the breakdown, getting over the ball to Jackal, his hamstrings are firing to stabilize his entire posterior chain against the counter ruck.
Mm-hmm. And binding into a scrum, too.
Exactly. That tension is what transfers power from the lower body through the shoulders. If there's even, say, a 10% deficit in that muscle's integrity, he loses his anchor. The opposition will just blow him right off the ball.
Wow. Yeah. So cautious treatment is literally the only logical play here. You can't just throw on some rigid tape and mask a hamstring strain like you might with a sprained wrist.
No, it's way too risky against New Zealand, where you spend 80 minutes in the red line.
But I want to pivot to the psychological fallout of this, because taking your primary leader off the board could completely fracture a locker room. Yet Kolisi's post-match reaction was incredibly stoic.
Yeah, it really was.
He basically said, there's nothing I can do now other than to go and have a scan and then see how long I'm out for.
Which is precisely what a veteran squad needs to hear. I mean, he is stripping all the emotion and anxiety out of the situation.
Just focusing on the facts.
Right. In high-performance environments, panic is highly contagious, but so is pragmatism. By immediately shifting his focus to the medical controllables, he prevents the narrative from becoming a tragedy.
Yeah, it signals to the rest of the pack that the systemic goals remain identical, right? Just the personnel executing them will shift.
Exactly. And speaking of the team's mental state, this is actually a perfect time to throw a question out to you listening. Make sure to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description. And while you're doing that, drop a comment below. We want to know how you think the squad will emotionally handle Kolisi's absence on the field in those opening 20 minutes.
Yeah. Is there a transitional lag, or do they immediately hit their stride? I mean, I think it takes the pressure off whoever has to step into his shoes if the captain himself isn't panicking.
For sure. The deputy doesn't feel like he's walking into a burning building. And the answer to that transitional lag largely depends on who is actually wearing the armband when the whistle blows.
Because with Kolisi's availability highly doubtful, the Springboks aren't looking at a void. They're looking at a surplus of proven generals. Let's break down the candidates from the source material.
The big three.
The big three: Pieter-Steph du Toit, Eben Etzebeth, and Jesse Kriel. I want to start with du Toit because he is widely considered the frontrunner, largely based on how he managed the squad during the July tests.
Well, if you are looking for a captain who dictates the physical baseline of a match, Pieter-Steph du Toit is your absolute prototype. He operates on a philosophy of just Relentless example.
His work rate is insane.
It's statistical anomaly territory. We're talking about a player who will hit double-digit tackle counts, secure attacking rucks, and still be the first man chasing a box kick.
But, and let me play devil's advocate, does that translate to leadership or just individual brilliance? Leading by example is great, but communicating tactical shifts to the referee is an entirely different skill set.
I get that, but it translates to leadership through behavioral economics. When the guy with the armband is burying himself into the darkest, most bruising areas of the ruck time and time again.
It removes any excuse for the other 14 men not to match it.
Exactly. He sets the defensive line speed. Against the All Blacks, who thrive on quick, chaotic ball, having a captain whose primary objective is defensive disruption sends a very clear message about the Springboks' tactical intent for that day.
Okay, I see that. But let's look at option 2, Eben Etzebeth. I mean, he took over the captaincy when Kolisi went off in Buenos Aires. We are talking about a monolithic lock.
Massive experience.
But my pushback on Etzebeth as a full-time captain has always been his positioning. As a tight forward, his head is quite literally buried in the scrum for significant portions of the game. Isn't there a risk that he misses the wider spatial dynamics of the match?
There is a trade-off. Certainly, he won't have the panoramic view of a fullback. But what Etzebeth offers is supreme authority in the set piece, which is where South Africa historically breaks teams down.
True, he is already managing the line-out calls.
Right. Putting the armband on him formally consolidates the forward pack's communication. Plus, there's the psychological component. Etzebeth is an enforcer.
Oh, absolutely.
When a penalty goes against South Africa and he walks up to speak to the referee, his sheer physical presence and veteran gravitas carry immense weight. He knows how to manage the tempo of a referee's whistle, slowing the game down when the All Blacks try to speed it up.
That referee management is so critical. It's a dark art. But if we're talking about a panoramic view of the game, that brings us to candidate number 3, who isn't a forward at all, Jesse Kriel.
A very interesting choice.
He captained 3 tests last year, and Rassie Erasmus clearly trusts him immensely. Having a center as captain changes the entire communication paradigm on the field, doesn't it?
It shifts the locus of control from the breakdown to the midfield. A backline captain like Kriel is constantly analyzing the spatial geometry of the opposition's attack.
So while Du Toit is focused on the collision,
Kriel is looking at the All Blacks' offensive pods. He sees where they are trying to manipulate the drift defense. He can read a mismatch, like 2 phases before it even happens.
I hear the tactical benefits for all 3, but I have to ask, because everyone talks about depth as this universally positive thing. Is it possible that having 3 incredibly dominant, highly qualified alpha personalities on the field creates a too many cooks in the kitchen scenario?
Like they'd be tripping over each other.
Yeah. If you have Etzebeth shouting about the set piece, Du Toit demanding line speed, and Kriel wanting to adjust the defensive width, doesn't that risk cognitive overload right before facing your biggest rival?
Well, in a traditional autocratic rugby system, yes, that would be a recipe for disjointed chaos. But the Springboks do not operate a traditional hierarchy. Rassie Erasmus has spent years cultivating a decentralized shared leadership model.
So the infrastructure is already distributed.
The reality is, even when Siya Kolisi is fully fit and wearing the armband, Etzebeth is already running the tight 5. Kriel is already organizing the defensive edge.
Right, and Pollard or LaRue are dictating the kicking game.
Exactly. The formal title of captain in the modern Springbok setup is largely administrative. It dictates who shakes hands at the coin toss and who has the final say when deciding whether to kick for points or kick for the corner.
So transitioning the armband doesn't require anyone to change their day job.
Nope, it just elevates a different node in their existing communication network. It means Erasmus can pick the captain based on the specific tactical tone he wants to set for that specific Saturday.
That makes a lot of sense. You deploy the captain that counters the All Blacks' specific game plan for that week. But the leadership void isn't the only issue Kolisi's hamstring created.
Far from it.
There is a glaring physical and tactical gap in the loose forward rotation that required immediate attention. The source notes that Erasmus has called up Deon Fourie to join the squad in Johannesburg.
The machinery of the forward pack needed recalibration, and this solution is a fascinating study in squad management.
It really is. Now, as a hardcore rugby fan, you have to appreciate the audacity of this move. Fourie is a 39-year-old utility forward. He's a World Cup winner, sure, most comfortable at open side flank, but 39 years old?
It's definitely up there for an international forward.
In a sport that demands absolute peak physiological output, I have to ask, why him? Why not bring in a hungry 23-year-old prospect who can run all day
Yeah,
and treat this as a baptism of fire?
because a baptism of fire against the All Blacks usually results in severe burns.
Ooh, well said.
When you're facing New Zealand in a high-stakes series, the emotional voltage is just off the charts. The margins for error shrink to millimeters. A younger player, full of adrenaline, will often try to overplay their hand.
They lack the tactical patience. They play the occasion, not the game.
Precisely. They want to make the heroic steal at the ruck, and in doing so, they lose their footing, give away a penalty, and suddenly the All Blacks have kicked for the corner and scored off a driving maul.
Deon Fourie, on the other hand.
He has seen every trick, every pressure scenario, and every dark art the game has to offer. He brings a deeply ingrained, cool-headed pragmatism. When the game becomes chaotic, and against New Zealand, chaotic transition play is their primary weapon.
Fourie acts as a stabilizing anchor.
He knows exactly when to contest a ruck and, more importantly, when to leave it alone and reset the defensive line. He slows the heartbeat of the younger players around him just by being on the pitch.
It's the intangible value of thousands of hours of muscle memory. He doesn't have to think, he just executes. And when you look at the sheer logistical scale of this rugby's greatest rivalry series, having a veteran who knows how to manage his body becomes paramount.
Oh, the itinerary alone is a grueling endurance test before you even factor in the opposition.
Let's lay out this gauntlet because it is staggering. They kick off on August 22nd at Ellis Park in Johannesburg. Then they travel to DHL Stadium in Cape Town on August 29th.
Already a huge shift in environment.
Then back to Johannesburg to play at the massive FNB Stadium on September 5th. And they cap it all off by flying across the Atlantic to play at an M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, USA on September 12th.
That schedule is a physiological minefield. You are starting at Ellis Park, which sits at an altitude of nearly 6,000 feet. The air is thin,
The ball travels significantly further through the air, right?
which fundamentally alters the kicking and aerial contest strategies for both teams. Plus, from a conditioning standpoint, the high veld just burns the lungs of the unacclimated.
And then 7 days later, they are playing at sea level in Cape Town.
Where the air is dense, the ball drops faster, and the tactical emphasis often shifts back to heavy set-piece dominance and grinding phase play. Then they go right back up to altitude for the third test at FNB Stadium.
A 90,000-seat pressure cooker.
And finally, a long-haul international flight across multiple time zones to play in an NFL stadium in Maryland.
It's brutal. You aren't just managing 80 minutes of rugby. You're managing recovery cycles, sleep protocols, and extreme environmental shifts over a 4-week period.
Which brings us right back to why a 39-year-old Deon Fourie is on that roster. Navigating a tour of this magnitude requires a level of extreme, off-field professionalism. Fourie knows how his body responds to altitude. He knows how to hydrate for a long-haul flight.
He's like an auxiliary coach in the hotel and the recovery room.
Setting the standard for the younger squad members on how to survive a month-long trench war. Furthermore, his versatility as a utility forward means Erasmus can plug him into multiple roles in the back row, or even at hooker in an absolute emergency, without suffering a drop in tactical IQ.
He's a tactical Swiss Army knife for a tour that demands immense flexibility. It really highlights how meticulous the Springboks planning is. They aren't just picking the best 15 players, they are building a 33-man ecosystem designed to withstand structural shocks. I want to throw one last reminder to everyone listening. Please subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description. And this is the most important question for the comment section today. Who is your ultimate pick for the captain's armband against the All Blacks?
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Do you want Du Toit setting the physical standard, Etzebeth managing the referee, or Kriel pulling the strings from the midfield? Drop your tactical reasoning below.
It is going to be fascinating to see how the fans weigh those different leadership philosophies. But to distill what we've analyzed today, the loss of a unifying figure like Siya Kolisi to a hamstring injury is undeniably a hurdle. However, the Springboks' response to this hurdle reveals the true strength of their setup.
They are insulated by a deeply ingrained shared leadership model.
Whether they deploy Du Toit's engine, Etzebeth's intimidation, or Kriel's vision, the tactical framework remains rock solid. And by reinforcing the squad with the seasoned, battle-hardened intellect of Deon Fourie, they have ensured they have the emotional and physical durability to navigate a brutal, continent-spanning series.
It transforms a potential crisis into a showcase of strategic depth.
It does. And it leaves me with this final tactical question to consider as we approach kickoff. We habitually view injuries to marquee players as a net negative. But when a team's tactical patterns become highly familiar to an opponent like the All Blacks, could an unexpected disruption like losing your primary leader and forcing a reshuffle in the back row actually make the Springboks less predictable?
Oh, that's a great point.
Could this forced adaptation be the exact spark that makes them vastly more dangerous in the opening test? Something for you to mull over.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.